Well, welcome everybody. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach, and I am also the author of the best-selling author of these brand new books. And I just want to share these with you because they just got published, and it's a series, not a series, but a package consisting of 2 volumes. It's called The Tree of Life Mastery, and this is volume 1. And its title is The Wisdom of the Tree. You can see that it's pretty thick. This is over 500 pages long. And the second volume is called The MagnifEssence Journal, which is kind of a daily guide you can use to support yourself in all of the tools that are provided in this book. I'm really excited about this. This is kind of like my life's work and something I've been working on for a long time. So I'm really excited that it's out there. What I am going to do right now, this is available on Amazon. And I'm going to quickly just drop these links into the chat. So you can, if you want, you can go check those out. And for those who watch the recording, I'll also put a QR code on the top there so you can quickly get access to those. But enough about that. Let me just say what we're talking about today. So this is MagnifEssence in Motion, in case I failed to mention that. And this is episode number 39. And our title today is Claiming Your Inner Authority. Now, claiming your authority is about honoring your sovereign right to trust your own body, intuition, and judgment above all external validation. It means recognizing that you are the primary expert in your own life, the one who truly knows what is right for you, even when the world around you suggests otherwise. And believe me, the world around you has plenty of opinions about how you should be showing up. And I'm sure you've already experienced that. Anyway, I'm thrilled to welcome back my esteemed colleague and friend, Leah Skurdal, to this session of MagnifEssence in Motion. As a seasoned resilience guide with 3 decades of deep research and lived experience under her belt, Leah brings a profound gift for helping others navigate the noise of the external world to find their own steady center. So welcome, Leah. It's so great to have you back again. It's been such a long time since we had a chance to have one of these conversations. And I'm just delighted that you said yes. And let's see where this goes.
Thank you so much, David. It's delightful to be back again and having a really profound conversation with you.
Good. Yes. And we've had, you've been on my programs before, and we've shared in other spaces as well. And I know that we've had a lot of amazing connections and deep ideas that we've shared together. Now, what I would like to know, and for the benefit of our viewing audience, I'd like you to share a little bit about your own personal story and what it is that led you to this place where you have thought that it's really important for this idea of claiming your own inner authority.
Right. Thank you so much. It kind of started in my 20s when first off, I had a car accident where I did not die. And that I found out shortly after that somebody I went to high school with had died just 11 days prior. And I started asking those big questions. Why me? Why am I still here? Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, other things were falling apart. I stopped trusting the outer authorities. I stopped trusting the institutions that I'd depended on, and that it felt like everything was unsteady. And it took a long path to start claiming that inner authority that helped navigate all of the changes and challenges and uncertainties. And that has been this steady rock of my life since then. Just being willing to trust myself.
Yeah, that's great. Well, having had a couple of serious car crashes of my own, I know how jarring that can be. I don't like to call it traumatic because I think the word trauma is a little overused in our daily conversation. I mean, it certainly is a jarring experience and not necessarily something that people would voluntarily sign up for. And yet, what I've found for myself, and I don't know if this is true for you, I have found that both of those accidents, I call them accidents. Why do we call them accidents? Somehow, I think in some way they are deliberates. You know what I mean? We do them in some way, we do them on purpose for some reason that we may not understand at the time. And in my case, the first one really didn't do much to wake me up. But the second one, which happened about 30 years later, no, more than that, 40 years later, really kind of got me thinking very, very carefully about, okay, that's 2 car crashes that I have survived. What is the universe trying to tell me here? And so I really decided that it was time to do some inner work and go and look inside and see if I could find those answers. But one thing I can tell you that has become very, very clear to me is that life and the honoring of life is so important. It's so important. That's been my experience. How about you? Did you have something similar to that?
Well, that at first everything felt, I went through that phase of everything was pointless. And I couldn't find my grounding. I felt like I was a drifter for a number of years. But then just as you say, the meaning of the celebrating life, celebrating every moment, finding the joy in the small things, finding the interconnections with people as being so profoundly meaningful. Yes, that is what I think moved me forward, as well as that listening to my spiritual authority inside.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier that you stopped trusting some of the institutions and authorities that you had come to rely on. And I think that's a really, really important point because, you see somebody with a white lab coat and a stethoscope and you instantly go into, well, whatever he says, it's got to be right, or she says, has got to be right, and I have to listen. And that seems to be the way we have been conditioned for so long in our lives.
Right.
And in fact, it seems that over the last few years, if you dare to ask questions, then you are deemed a bit of an idiot for, why can't you just simply trust the science, they say, or trust the doctor, or trust the medicine, whatever. And, I'm so glad actually that COVID happened, because it's woken up a lot of people to this whole thing. And I think more and more people now are starting to say, wait a minute. Sure, doctors are they have answers, but not necessarily the right answer for me.
Exactly. Not exactly the right answer for me. And in graduate school, I took a class on evaluating evaluations, which was very eye-opening, because you have to ask the question, who's paying for the evaluation? Who's paying for the research? Where does this research start from and go to? And what's the agenda? And so that just kind of made me, I mean, it kind of contributed to my cynicism, but then in the bigger picture, I've had enough conversations with people who, honest to God, believe their truth. They absolutely, in their heart, believe they are 100% accurate, and I'm the fool. Mm-hmm. I can see that you have a different opinion than I do, and I honor you for having those strong convictions. And I just happen to have a different view of the world.
Right. And good for you. Good for you. And I like the way you framed that, actually. Yeah, you and I have different perspectives. Wait, mine is not an opinion. Mine is scientific fact.
Right, exactly.
And that's what they try to do, is they take this big giant club and they whack you over the head with it and say, you must listen, And you mentioned polls. I think that's a great topic too, because, or I don't think you use the word poll, but you talk about evaluations. I think polls are the same way. The questions that they ask seem to be slanted towards a particular way of thinking. That's what I've noticed in a lot of these cases. So the bias is built right in, and you're kind of, they're putting you on a little pathway. Yeah, ask this question, and then when they answer such and such, move them over here onto this lane. Otherwise, move them over onto this lane to give them a stronger push over here. That's the kind of way they do things now. And it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I had that observation as well. And I've been looking for the media that is in the center, that shows both sides of the story, that maybe shows a third perspective that hadn't been considered before. because I think there's always more than two sides to the story. As a matter of fact, there's your side and my side, and then where we come together in the middle makes a third opinion. So there are multiple perspectives of one story.
Right, and that's very, very valid and very important, I think. And the other thing to realize, I'm sure you've heard this story, the story of the 5 blind people trying to describe an elephant just by touching different parts of its body. And of course, you get 5 completely different perspectives, all of which are correct in their own way, but which aren't complete.
Yes.
And that's something that I think we all have to pay attention to. Yes, I have a perspective, and my perspective is valid, but my perspective is based only on the information that has been given to me. I don't necessarily know the information that has been given to you. And that's really important for us to remember.
Correct. I agree. I agree with that. And I think that is also true in our faith communities, that I believe the divine creator of all life speaks to each one of us in different voices. Now my grandfather thought that God only spoke in Norwegian. However, we know that God speaks in all languages and knows how best to reach our hearts. So one faith is not wrong or bad. It is that, or it is not mine. It is not mine. And I have to listen to how the divine wants to speak through me.
Yeah, there are those religions that says our faith, our belief system is the only path to God.
Yes, and I grew up in one of those.
Yeah, I've been brought up in that kind of environment. But I have flipped the switch on those people. I say, you're right. There is only one path to God. And every single one of us is on that path.
Right.
It's just that my path is going to look different than your path.
Exactly.
But there's only one place to go, and that is right back to source when we're complete with this journey, whatever we're doing here.
Right.
Now, some people say, well, maybe that's not true either. Maybe the lights just go out and that's it. That's the end of it. Well, that's possible, I suppose. But I honestly, my heart and my soul say, no, that's not what's going to happen.
And you know what? We'll find out when we get to the other side, won't we?
That's right. Yeah. Well, maybe we see. Now that's interesting. If we find out, then that means we were right. Because if the lights do go out, we're not going to find out anything.
True.
So, yeah. Anyway, we have fun with it. That's the main thing. Have fun with it, and I think the secret here is not to make each other wrong just because we have a disagreement.
And that, I think, it's an important skill set. It's an important contribution to society right now, is to look for the common ground, because we're not going to solve the world's problems through the extremes. We're going to solve the world's problems by coming together in the middle. I believe that so firmly. And well, again, that's my bias, right? I have a bias towards the center.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I try not to have any biases at all, but of course I am human. So naturally I do have biases. And the secret, I think, is to recognize that the bias exists. I have a preference for such and this and that and the other thing. And that there's nothing wrong with those preferences, but how are they serving me? I think that's a great question to ask.
That is a great question. How are my preferences serving me?
Yeah. Or how is anything serving me, really? And this goes for belief systems too. This is another thing that I try to do in my own practice, is realize that I have a strong belief or opinion about something, and then ask myself, but is it true? Just because I believe it doesn't mean it's true. And just because something is true doesn't mean I'll believe it. So when I understand that and I can practice that, then I can look at every one of my beliefs and I can say, this is pretty hardcore, this belief that I have here. I can trim that down. I can tweak it. I can maybe reshape it. Or maybe I can just dive into it and try to understand more about how I got to that belief system. There's all kinds of things that we can do about our beliefs. And it may turn out that a belief I had 5 minutes ago will no longer exist in the present moment.
And that's true, because once I get more information, that might alter the way I see the world. That might alter my relationship with you. That might alter my relationship with myself, because I have more information. And that developing that self-trust by honoring my own integrity is a path to, again, self-mastery.
Right. But even science is misleading us in some ways. You know, we're being told that, well, you're supposed to look for evidence to find the truth. That's really the way I think the way it's supposed to work. But it often gets retranslated to, you have to find evidence to support this conjecture. That's what you have to do. And when you do that, you if you find something that goes against the conjecture, you basically dismiss it or label it an anomaly, or something like that. And that's kind of the way a lot of science has been going over the last few years. Something that goes against the grain is not considered acceptable. But a true scientist will say, oh, look at that.
Look at that.
That doesn't belong, or that can't be here according to this theory. So now many people will try to just dismiss it and say, well, the theory is strong. We have to stick with the theory. But some people, real scientists, will say, no, it means the theory is wrong. And we've got to find some way of modifying the theory so that so-called anomaly can find its way to fit.
And we have to then revisit some of the assumptions that science has made in the past. And one of them is race.
Mm-hmm.
The classifications of race are actually erroneous based on incomplete and inaccurate science. There's only one race of humans. Mm-hmm. And the external eye color, hair color, skin color is a variable, but I don't remember the exact number, but it's something like 98% of humans are human DNA. But I shouldn't say a number because I don't know what it is, but the vast majority of the DNA in our bodies is all similar, and there's just that little fraction that makes our skin color different, that differentiates us. So I found that fascinating to do that research and find out that the research is being revisited because it was based on inaccuracies.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. Certainly, the idea of, I think, first of all, we put way too much weight on the idea of DNA to begin with, because DNA does not answer the question of soul or consciousness or any of that stuff. So DNA is just simply one tiny little part of the puzzle. But here's what's also fascinating to me. Humans share DNA with trees to the level of about 78%. Now that blows my mind.
That's brilliant. I love that. I love that, because what we know also is that we are made of the same minerals as other life forms on the planet, and we all use the same water as other life forms on the planet. The trees are the other half of our lungs. We use the same air that circulates through all of us. So we do share the earth recycling through all of our tissues, whether we're a human tissue or a tree tissue.
I agree. It's fascinating. So when I hear that humans are 98% alike across all races, I think actually the number is much higher than that. I think it's closer to 100% than it is to 98%.
I don't remember the number.
But you see that This also points to another very, very important factor. We are hardwired to notice differences.
We are.
And when you take into effect the fact that the DNA differences are very, very small, clearly our differentiating capability is highly evolved and highly specialized, right? And that's what makes it possible for us to have pattern recognition. It's because of differences, And so it's amazing stuff, really. But you mentioned we're all made of the same stuff. Well, in reality, we are, right down to the microscopic, nanoparticle level. If you take like just an electron from a human body and compare it to an electron from a rock, you can't tell the difference. They are identical.
Wow. That is so fascinating to me, that the earth is recycling through us. And what makes humans different is that level of storytelling, of meaning making, of being able to observe and create meaning out of that observation.
Right.
So I think that also is fascinating. We're here for a purpose. That, again, that would be the meaning making that I'm assigning, is that we're here for a purpose. And that what are we going to do with this gift of life we've been given? Trees don't necessarily need to think about what they're doing with their life. They just change from an acorn into an oak tree. And we get to be more mindful and cognizant of all the choices along the way.
That's another fascinating topic that you just brought up, and we're all over the place here today, folks. I'm sorry about that, but this is just too much fun. But have you ever looked at an acorn? I mean, just look at it. I don't see an oak tree in that acorn. And yet when you drop that acorn into the soil and it gets the nutrition that it needs, something happens, something magical happens, and it really truly is a miracle. It gathers energy from someplace, because you can't imagine that the entire oak tree is contained inside that acorn. So the rest of the tree had to come from somewhere else, and that part just blows my mind when I think about that. I mean, you could do the same thing with just like a tiny little seed for a flower that you put into your garden. The seed is so small you can almost not see it, but then when it germinates, it produces a flower that's like 1,000,000 times bigger than the seed was.
Yeah.
And and where did it get all that? Well, it didn't get it all from the soil, that's for sure. Because you plant multiple different things in the same soil and you get different things. So something else is contributing to that. It's miraculous, and I just don't know how to describe it.
I know. I agree. It is miraculous, and that each seed is encoded with what it's going to grow into. It can't choose to change from a petunia seed to a dandelion. But humans get to then also embrace what is encoded in our beingness. And so that's actually a question that I've been thinking about, because here we are at this transformation in humanity, where we've been likened to that the transformation of a caterpillar into the mush in a cocoon into a butterfly that we are emerging into. And is that already pre-encoded in us when we came in as our soul infused personalities, birthing into these butterflies, emerging into a new form of human? That's what I've heard is happening. Is that a perspective that you embrace?
So we're talking about the idea of 3D, 4D, 5D expansion, and I do believe something is happening for sure. I don't see the same things that other people describe. I don't have the same personal experiences that some people describe. For example, I have friends who claim to have reincarnated from a previous life. And okay, I hear you, I understand you, but I don't have anything to compare that to because I don't have those kinds of thoughts in my mind. So is it really happening? Possibly. They certainly believe it is, you know. Um, I mean, I have my own perspective on that, and that has to do with this idea of the holographic universe. That I came to this idea through, what was this guy's name? I can't remember the author of the book, The Holographic Universe. But he talked about this whole thing and how, you know, really our minds and our memories are not stored in our brains or in our bodies, but they're actually stored out there in what now people are calling the Akashic records, the Akashic fields, the 0 point energy fields, you know, dark matter, dark energy, whatever you want to call it. And somehow our brains are like radio antennas that are tuned to a particular frequency. So I can always access my own memories quite easily because it's tuned to my frequency. But some people can access your memories because they have a control over some kind of an internal tuning device that allows them to, you know, to connect in with your memories in the same place. And so that's one possibility. It's not the answer. It's just a perspective on it. So that, to me, actually could explain the experience of reincarnation. Because if I can tune into your memories, somebody who's living right now, then I could certainly tune into the memories of someone who lived 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. That seems to be possible to me. So the reincarnation experience might be real, or it might just be a product of expanding mind or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know. Those are lots of different perspectives of how we fine tune our radio frequency dial. Remember when you used to turn the radio dial and you could get static in between, or you could lock in onto a station? So perhaps it's like that.
Yeah.
When we fine tune our frequency.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. But what this all leads me to, and what I suspect that you have been here too, is I do really truly believe that we are all one. No matter how different we might look, no matter how unusual one person might behave compared to another, in reality, we are all emanating out of the same ocean of consciousness. We're all part of that same fabric of life. And so this idea of sovereignty as an individual kind of has fuzzy edges. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. As a matter of fact, I've reflected on that myself because we're both unique and oneness.
Right.
Simultaneously. So the flower in the garden is a unique emanation of source, and you and I are each unique emanations of source.
Correct.
And my perspective is that source is continually expanding through each of us expanding.
Right.
So that's how the universe can continue to expand, is through us and through our expansion.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. It really is fascinating, and it's a head scratcher and a head banger for sure. You know, it's not something that you're going to get an instant answer to. It's a lifetime of meditation to try and.
Sure.
Yeah.
And exactly, you know, when we have these perplexing questions or perplexing problems, that giving ourselves that sacred space to pause and listen inward can give us so much more calm and focus and groundedness amidst all the change. When we take that time to listen inward and go beyond the noise. The external noise can just be a huge distraction. And when we give ourselves permission to pause and listen, we can know what we know in our bones.
Right. This is just an absolutely fascinating conversation to me, because now that we've come to this place of recognizing our oneness, even though we are in some strange way unique expressions, or I think you called them unique emanations of source. Even though we have that, so we got a dualistic quality of being all one and separate at the same time. And that's the unique experience of being human, of individuating from consciousness into this space of, in the physical world. So authority and sovereignty seem to exist in the physical side of that equation, and they don't exist anymore in the oneness side of that equation. Have you noticed that?
Yes. And where I want to go with that is when I have when I give myself permission to listen to my own authority within, then I can find that edge between discerning between what is mine and what is ours and what is all that is.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me a sense of what's the right word? Satisfaction. Satisfaction is not quite the right word, but well-being, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
When I can feel that allowing the divine, the oneness, the creation, the source, to be that edge for me, where the individual dissolves into the one. Does that make sense? Can you follow that?
Yes, of course. So you talked about dissolving, which implies that there's no edge at all.
And that's the paradox. I think that when we get into the place of source, our minds can't track it anymore. And it is that source exists in paradox because it's only our little limited mental bodies in the 3D human experience that think that it has to be either or. Right.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, I like that. You use the word paradox too, which I use that word a fair bit. It is paradoxical. Both things can be true simultaneously, and so you get this cognitive dissonance. You can't really reconcile both of them with the limited capabilities of our brain function.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So here we are. We finally got to the idea of authority. So let's talk more now about this idea of claiming inner authority. What does that really mean to you, and how do you tell people about it?
Claiming your authority is knowing that your body, your emotions, your own truth is clearly clear, and your body will inform you when you are aligned with that body awareness. And I'd like to go into that. How we know about our body awareness is being able to discern the difference between when your body is on high alert and the stress response, like where does that live in your body, versus when is your body in the rest and digest response of the vagal nerve is being activated into rest. And when we can be in own that ability to calm ourselves, to regulate our nervous systems, that develops self-trust and that develops that inner authority.
Okay. So say more about body awareness. How do we get to that place?
So let's take a moment right now and think of something that is not true for you.
Oh my God.
Something
you're going to have to give me some examples.
I'm not sure. Not true. Okay, so for example, if I say I am cat sitting for my daughter, that's not true. and I feel a little tightness, a little constriction in my throat. So if you say something that you know is not true, where do you notice that in your body? If I say, I really love tuna, like, I feel that, again, that constriction in my throat. Like, that is not true. But if I say instead, I am dog sitting for my daughter, like, oh, I feel some lightness. I feel some expansion. Like, where do you feel that truth in your body? That is true. You might hear them. And where do you feel that expansion? Feel that maybe an openness? Where do you feel that truth in your body? And that is a tool you can use to discern what is true and not true. And there have been times in my life where my body was flashing, like, get out, this is bad. But I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening because I was all up here in my head. I was, this intellectual that only lived in my head. And when instead I learned to trust my body's signals to say, oh, this is not true. This is not true. And now I will use that quite often to make decisions. Okay, body, what's true for you? And then you weigh that with, okay, emotions. What is true for you? And, oh, I'm feeling some fear. Okay, where is that fear located in my body? And then you ask the mind, okay, mind, what is true for you? Like, oh, that energy of right now is reminding me of fears, reminding me of time in the past where I wasn't safe. Okay, let's unravel that. Let's unravel that thought. Like, okay, my inner child was not safe in that moment because I'm thinking that reminds me of a time when I was a kid and I wasn't safe. And now I can go back and I can let my inner child feel safe. Like, okay, honey, little Leah, I'm just going to hug you right now. And I'm going to tell you, you know what? It turned out okay. You're safe. You're safe now. You're safe now. And I might even hum a little song. and let that little child know that she's safe. And then that lets my emotions settle down, which lets my body feel safe and protected. And then I can go into this next situation like, oh, okay, I can bring my adult self into this situation. My inner child is safe over here and doesn't need to be activated because I was reminded of something that happened when I was a kid.
Right.
Does that?
Yeah.
And that's again how we can practice agency in our lives, in our there's a lot of stuff that maybe reminds us of our unresolved childhood situations, or our ancestors' unresolved situations, or our family's unresolved situations. Like a lot of things that can activate that feeling of not safety. And when we can then embrace that safety in ourselves, okay, right now I'm safe, then we can create that healing and step forward with more surety.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's very similar to kind of the process that I use for myself. Although I have chosen in my own vocabulary not to use the word true or false, simply because I recognize that each of us has our own perspective. And I try to use things like, this feels, I guess this feels real to me, this feels true to me. I guess I might use the word true in that case, because there is this thing called the ring of truth, right? There is a vibration that happens when you are connected to truth. And there's a different vibration that happens when you are connected to falsehood. Your body actually notices the difference. And it may be an emotional response, as you said, or it might be a kind of a thought response, or maybe the spirit starts to react in some way. Like when I know I'm connected to truth, whatever that might be, I can feel my soul kind of dancing. There's a nice happiness and a joyfulness that I can feel when that happens. Even if the truth, the so-called truth, is something that might not be that pleasant, at least I know there's truth in it. See? But again, when I'm speaking, I try to avoid saying, like, for example, you and I might have a conversation and you might say something that say, that's true. I now stop saying that and I say, I agree with that statement.
Okay.
Because
that makes sense.
It's a different kind of energy. But anyway, you see what I'm saying? Language, I think, is really, really important. Yeah.
I do see what you're saying. And it reminds me of during the time of COVID, where I had a very different opinion than somebody else. And she was calling me out. She didn't understand. I said, well, let's have a conversation about this. And it was fascinating to me because we agreed to disagree. And when you say, it feels the resonant field of truth, like I was 100% in my truth, but I could see how somehow from her perspective, she was 100% in her truth. And where we crossed over in the middle was we agreed to disagree. Okay, I can accept that you have a different opinion than I do. I don't get it, and that's okay. But it was just fascinating to me because
right.
I hadn't had that kind of intense experience of let's just explore our difference in opinion right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually it's true. I think. Oh, I just used that word. Look at that.
I know. It's
now I'm getting more aware of it. So, COVID was one of those defining moments that really polarized the entire world. Yeah, there are some people who are completely militant about one side of it, and people who are very militant about the opposite side.
Yes,
and people just warring against each other over
opinions about what is right for everybody.
Yeah.
When I truly believe that there are things that people need to be able to decide for themselves.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So, and that of course is an opinion as well.
Right.
So I recognize that. Okay. So
well, that's an interesting thing though. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, I don't think anybody can claim that anything is a fact per se. We even if you say, well, the sky is blue, right? Well, is it really? That's just a word we have put on to describe the sky, and we all kind of agree that generally speaking, the sky has a bluish tint to it. But there are plenty of times when the sky is yellow or gold or red or green or gray or even black with really dark clouds, and so to say the sky is blue, that's no longer a fact. It's a current state,
it's a state.
And even if it were a fact, what is a fact but really an agreed upon, a largely agreed upon state? Yeah. I think everything is just opinion and judgment, and we just have, if you have enough people who believe in that particular thing, then we label it a fact.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some facts that are more defensible than others, like gravity. There aren't very many people who defy gravity, but there probably are. There are some. There are some. Well, in any case, so I am wondering about how do we then align with that sacred truth within ourselves, and when that landscape might change over our lifetimes. And I'm thinking of when I was in my 20s and I was dancing with addictions, that I had one perspective about the victim perpetrator matrix, like I was a victim, blah blah blah. And yet when I gained more self-awareness and more self-trust, that then I could revisit some of those similar patterns from a higher perspective, and my inner authority was perhaps stronger, was I was more self-aware, I had more self-trust, and then I could respond to similar situations with a different response rather than a reaction. And I'm curious if you want to weigh in on that question or that statement or that story.
Yeah, I think, well, this whole topic, I mean, really, even though we've been bouncing all over the place, talking about all kinds of very interesting different things, it's all related and it's all relevant to this topic of inner authority. And I think that for myself, one of the biggest challenges for me personally, having had a pretty strong ego mind and a pretty significant amount of anger in my life, the challenge for me has been to maintain my own presence, my own groundedness, my own centeredness, my own inner authority without being violent towards the other people. You know, it's fine to say no and to make a clear boundary for yourself. I think that's actually very, very important. But if you can do it without being combative, if still trying to stay from a place of love, you know, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and therein is the stuff of life, the human condition.
Right.
How do I not get really out of joint and pissed off when somebody's doing something that I consider, that I have a strong judgment and opinion about? How do I instead come from that place of love?
Exactly.
And that to me is, I practice that daily.
Yeah.
How can I be in compassion in situations where somebody has a different take on the world? How do I come from love? Exactly. Exactly. That's what
it's like
teachers came to tell us, right?
I noticed that you resisted the urge to say they were doing something stupid. And let's face it. Sometimes we do stupid things. I mean, come on, let's be honest about it. I have done plenty of stupid things in my life, and I don't think I've used up my quota of stupid yet.
I know.
That's
part of the human
more
condition
stupid
as well.
stuff coming out of David McLeod. It doesn't matter how much work I do, I'm still going to make mistakes. And some of them, I'm going to slap my head and say, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And the whole point here is not to beat yourself up, not to make yourself wrong, but to do your best to love yourself and say, okay, that was my little boy. He was reacting to something about this or that or whatever. Bring some love, bring some healing, and if necessary, take responsibility out there with the rest of the people in your life and say, look, what I did was really stupid. I want to apologize to all of you. I know I may have caused some chaos here, and maybe I even hurt somebody. So I want to take responsibility for that. I want to tell you that I love you, and I want to, I'm going to choose to forgive myself. I'm going to choose also to try and be more aware about how I show up, and hopefully that stupid thing won't show up again.
And absolutely, you nailed it. And sometimes it's really subtle. I was in a small group gathering where there were 4 of us, and one person at the end called us out because we hadn't, I don't know, followed the rules, or somehow she was disappointed in something, and I didn't really get what she was disappointed about. Well, she came back and messaged me to say she had misunderstood and she apologized. And so my response was, I'm so sorry for my part in the miscommunication, whatever that was, because it's not just one person. Somehow how did I contribute to her misunderstanding? I don't know, but it's okay. I'll forgive myself for that too. Just as you say, have compassion for myself, have compassion for the other person, have compassion for the situation. Okay, we were speaking different languages in that moment. We used different words with different meanings, and there was a miscommunication. That happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and even the same word with different meanings. How often do we do that? You know, I might use a word that for some reason triggers you. I have no awareness of that trigger. I don't know what it's all about for you.
Right.
It's your trigger. How can I possibly know? And it's not until you tell me, and then I can say, well, now you've given me some, of course, in my ego mind state, you've given me now some ammo so I can get at you when I want to push your buttons. But really, if I'm going to stay in my true spiritual nature, I'm obviously not going to do that. I'm going to be more aware. At the same time, you have a trigger that is available for you to learn about yourself and figure out how to heal what's underneath that.
Exactly. And so I can thank you for pushing that button so it comes to my surface so I can
Bingo.
go into my inner child and say, oh, honey, you're okay. But at the same time, if we're talking about fine tuning that radio dial, how is it that I was in the frequency of that woman being triggered? Like how did that happen? Well, okay, in myself, I was really interested in talking to a third person, and I was kind of ignoring her. And I didn't mean to be ignoring her. I was just like really interested in this other person. And so the person who called us out felt less than. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel less than. So in my message back to her, I said, I see that you do this, and I'm really interested in that. I would like to hear more about that. Let's get together.
Right.
You know, so that's where I can help smooth that out. It's like, oh, you know what? I did contribute to that miscommunication. I see that now. I'm sorry. It wasn't my intention. How can we create a new scenario here of where there's well-being for all? And I think that's the dance of life, you see. That's the human condition.
Yeah. Well, and but I also want to say this. While it's true that I certainly might have some knowledge of your triggers, and I might then start playing with them using my ego mind trickery, the reality is, and this is true for all of us, whatever triggers I have, those are my triggers. And when I get triggered, it's an opportunity for me to do some inner healing on myself. I cannot really hold you responsible for activating my triggers, even if you're doing it deliberately. What I can do is I can say, all right, I've got this trigger and Leah is just resonating it, vibrating it, causing it to come flip-flop. I have to take some space. And I will tell you that, Leah, I'm afraid I have to take some space because there's something really going on in here and I got to deal with it. If I try to put it on you and say, you made me feel, you did this, you triggered this, blah, 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 I'm not taking responsibility for myself, and I'm trying to make you responsible for everything that's going on for me. That doesn't work. And I'm not really claiming my own authority. And in fact, what I'm doing in that case is I'm what's the word I want to say? I'm kind of overpowering your authority. That's what I'm doing with that kind of behavior. So I think it's really, really important, one, to take responsibility for my own triggers, to maybe number two, let you know how that thing, whatever it was, affected me, not asking you to make any changes in any way, shape, or form, but just letting you know so that you can understand my reaction. If it ever happens again, you might, I see that's what happened. And maybe you'll decide to change something. Maybe you won't, but that's not your responsibility. It's my responsibility. See, that's what I'm getting at. And this,
I hear.
Yeah, I think that inner authority is what it really means to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To take ownership of my responses. That's really all we can control.
Yep.
Yeah, and that if I give you, if I make you somehow responsible for my trigger, then I would be giving you my authority, which I don't want to do. I choose.
Right. We're giving our power away.
We're giving our power away. Yeah. And one of the most powerful books I've ever read was The Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl,
who survived Auschwitz and who was a psychiatrist and observed the humans who, in these horrible, horrible circumstances, some people survived because they took responsibility for their choices. They could find meaning in something, and that has stayed with me my whole life. What a powerful.
I remember I had a very, very strong reaction or response to his book as well. I read that, it's got to be 40
years ago. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant book, very well written.
Yeah. But as you say, that when that's the ultimate claiming my authority, what something nobody can take away from you is I get to choose my response in all these situations.
Right.
Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And at the same time, as a loving, compassionate human, I want to also take responsibility for like messaging back this friend who was put off by being ignored. Like, I could have said, okay, apology accepted. But instead I went the extra mile to say, sorry for our miscommunication, and I would love to learn more about you and your work. And I think that going that extra mile is something, again, a response where we can build more bridges, create more opportunities for healing for ourselves and for others, more opportunities for love, more opportunities for compassion. And I think that's also part of the human condition. How do we create more opportunities for love to grow?
And so as you do that, I think what happens is you become more present on a moment by moment basis, more present in the moment. And so when chaos shows up around you, you can still maintain your center. Do you find that for yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I am grounded and present in the moment, aware of my body, aware of my emotions, feeling connected to the earth, my presence is not only a silent moment, my presence is active. Right. and able to respond. And I think that's where the power of our human condition is on the edge of its growth.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And of course, presence in the midst of chaos is a form of calmness and serenity that helps to reduce the chaos.
Yes, to mitigate the external circumstances. And sometimes presence is very responsive and able to broadcast love, broadcast feelings, frequencies of love and harmony, and that is active.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Leah, can you believe it? It's already been nearly an hour. We have been talking, and lots of great content here. I'm just so delighted that we've had this conversation. And I'm just wondering if you have any final words you'd like to share before I close out the episode.
Well, yes, I would love to share that when we step into that grounded presence, that not only are we helping ourselves feel more calm and steady and stable in the moment, which helps us, but we're sending out those ripples of well-being that assist other people as well.
Absolutely.
So in that way, we're the pebble in the pond that is creating more frequencies of well-being in the world, which the world sorely needs in this time of transformation.
Yes, frequencies of well-being. Beautiful words. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Leah, for being with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've just loved our conversation. I think we've covered a lot of ground today in only an hour, and yeah, it's absolutely fabulous. And so, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, David. It was a delightful
Oh, you're most
conversation.
welcome. My pleasure. And I want to thank you who are here on the live presentation. Thank you for being here. And for those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording. And please remember to like and subscribe and do all those things that you know how to do all that already. I don't need to remind you. And for those of you who are interested, I have all these episodes, including write-ups and everything, are available on my website at yourlifemasterycoach.com. So you can go find them there. And I would like to remind you, before we do our final closeout, that I have this beautiful life mastery mantra that I want to share with you. It's 3 sentences that you can say as many times as you like, as often as you like, and I think you'll find them quite powerful. It's real simple. 3 sentences goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So thank you, friends, for being here. I'll see you next time on MagnifEssence in Motion, and I wish you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.